Which is a real thing. And when you want to win at the Olympic level, what has to happen is you have to know someone that has them. And I mean, you hear the term that there are no secrets, but secrets are anything that you can't get access to when you want it. Because here's the thing, I'm going to share with you from, 4 Olympic tenures, some of the things that you may not get access to. And with that being said, a lot of boxers who are trying to get this game, they don't have the necessary access. So I'm here to make sure that the trainers are getting this knowledge because over the past, I guess it's been like 9 days, there's been just an influx of people who are getting ready for tournaments and they are nervous, they're scared. So if this is you and you're coaching, this is going to help you. And if you're someone who's trying to get into the sport, but you have no idea what's coming, even right now, my phone's ringing from Instagram. What we're going to do is make it very clear to you there are things that you got to be prepared for, and as you climb up the competitive ladder, you're going to want to know how to do this stuff as well. So here are a couple of things. Like, there's competition going on, and a young man who really stood out to me asked me, and they were so motivated about their competition. And their biggest question was, how do you deal with a pressure fighter, someone who's actually coming to wail on you, and they know the actual fighter that they're going up against, which is a rare thing when you're in amateur boxing. You typically don't know who you're going against unless you're at a tournament and you know that you've been in a tournament with, you know, guys like the Sean Porters and the Keith Thurmans. When those guys were coming up, they all knew that they were going up against each other. Andre Ward, Timothy Bradley, all of those guys, they fought each other. When you're coming up, you know who the best in the room is when you get experience. So when you're sharing this, the biggest thing that you got to take away from when you when you have an opportunity to get on the stage, and there are a lot of things that you practice, and trainers, I want to explain this to you. There are a lot of things that you'll practice and you'll start doing, but the reality is there's always more layers to what you're doing. So therefore, I always tease you about, you can't learn on YouTube because YouTube are going to show you a technique, a skill, and maybe a combination of the skills. But they're not going to show you layers because nobody's getting paid to show you layers. That's why you see trainers who are elite have courses for you to take, because learning what's next is what's required. Now, here are the things when you're in amateur boxing. You have to realize sometimes you have fights that you're in and you don't know why or what's required, because you feel like you've done what's required. But hands, feet, the understanding of, that's why they have the white part on the glove when you're in amateur boxing, because it has to flushly hit your opposition without their glove touching it at all. So that's where you see people getting frustrated at tournaments and thinking that they won, but they really didn't win because they felt like that they scored and they didn't actually score. It's because their trainer is not versed in understanding what the officials' rules are for themselves. So that's why I knew that it would benefit my trainers who are in the school of boxing. One of the things that I do is I had to go get certified to be an official. And then I took, I had a seminar with Ray Armendariz and Haley Zell, who were officials, one in the Olympics and professional boxing, and one who's niece of one of the greatest fighters to ever lace him up, one of the individuals who Mike Tyson learned his actual peekaboo techniques from. He learned the style from Customato, but he learned the body punching from Tony Zale. It's the niece of Tony Zale, so she's a top official in New York City, and what we did is brought them on so that we could get the deeper layering of that. So I also took a coach's seminar only for officials. And that clinic gave me clear insight. So you're talking about I went in 5 layers deep so that I could understand. And when I taught these individuals who are under our banner, they'd have all of the details. So the depth that you're going to learn from is not only from me, but from former Olympic champion Andre Durrell and world champion. So this is just really in depth. And I just don't want to seem like you guys are in a position where you're on your own. The moment you followed our page, you're going to have deeper insight. Now, when you focus on winning and going up in tournament levels, my only suggestion at that point is to go a little bit deeper with us. So, here's some of the things that you got to realize when you are boxing in these tournaments. You must sit down and learn how these scores go. So if you're not versed in that, make sure you tap us on the shoulder and we'll give those of you who are a part of the school, we'll run that clinic on Tuesday. We'll run that show so you can see it. It lasts about 45 minutes. Once you get done with that, you will have a totally different insight. And then 2 weeks from there, we'll go into what we learned and were taught in a 2-hour clinic with Ray Armendariz. And I'm telling you, and Haley Zell, look, you think you know boxing until people who are in boxing talk to you and teach you. So, with that being said, knowing how to score, understanding what they're actually looking for, you're probably guilty of training your partner and your students so well. You're working on techniques, you're working on skill, you're so pumped to go to these tournaments, but the reality is this: if you don't understand what's in that food that you eat when you go out to a restaurant, you're not in the kitchen, you don't know what's in there, and neither do you know what's in the minds of these judges. Whenever you get to these events, I don't care if you wave to them and speak to them, you don't know what they're thinking. You don't know that they've just watched the last Sugar Ray Leonard. And that's where the advantages come from in boxing. The people who have depth, who've been in there 2 generations, 3 generations, 4 generations. This is generation 5 for us. And we're tagging you and letting you know some of these things that we want you to win. So our guy, his name was it, is it Sean? Sean Lucas, is in our DMs anyway. Here's how you fight against a pressure fighter. I did a short live stream earlier today while I was out scrolling, and it kind of broke down understanding how these guys come when they pressure. When they pressure you, they're coming with all the smoke, right? So knowing how to defend these guys is all about turning the corners and creating these angles. Once you learn how to create angles with these fighters, I'm going to show you exactly sidestep and turning individuals. And if you have any questions, be sure to drop them in the comment boxes or let me know what city and state that you're going to be boxing in, and I'll give you the ins and out of each of those individual sanctioning bodies. Those regions are all the same. They have very little difference in them. Now, you just want to realize that you got an opportunity here to learn. This is what we call defending fisticuffs. Fisticuffs is when you understand how to defend by actually prepping to counter your fighter. So you got to go through 2 layers, 3 layers, and then 4 layers of counters. What I'm going to show you here is the first 2 layers. So right here on the inside, you're going to see a
Mm-hmm.
lot of different techniques where you keep
Okay,
everything
so now where
defended,
we are in this lesson
and
is
it's defended in a manner I'm going to share with you the next little section. The way you defend it is all about, if you pay close attention to them, these guys are really tucked and they're in the pocket. And the reason why you defend that way is because if you block any part of that punch, it doesn't count as a score. So as you can see, our guys are in the pocket as if they were on the inside. So we were in the C zone here, and the blocks were substantially, everybody understood how to place the elbow directly to the hip bone. All right. Because here ain't good enough. If that thing gets in there, we know how to go inside, and we don't just throw punches. We create what we call the stabbing shot. We don't throw hook shots like most of the guys who come to the tournaments. You'll come to the tournament and you'll bring your fighter to the tournament, and you'll be practicing those hooks. And as soon as you come, we're looking at you practice, and we already knew. Yeah. And we high five him because we understand you don't understand how to throw a hook at a tournament. You have been working on hooks that you've been watching on YouTube. You have been looking at hooks that your old school coach taught you how to throw. The guy who has never won an Olympic medal, the guy who's never coached an Olympic medalist, because there are certain things that you don't know about how to throw hooks whenever you are in competitive boxing at a high level. This is so tricky about the amateur ranking. So this sequence is in our art of sparring, I mean our science of counterpunching. And what you're going to hear is the instructions that I'm going to give. So I'm going to run this for 60 seconds. So be patient, pay close attention to all of the little details, and there's going to be one move done purposely, and it's going to look untechnically or technically flawed, but we do this for a reason. It's dropping. I'm going to let you take close attention to it, and if you see it, you write it in the comment boxes. And if you write it in the comment boxes, we're going to give you this entire bundle for free. And the bundle consists of the peekaboo style, which helps you increase your offensive output, the Philly shell, which teaches you how to roll anything, defend against everything, and set traps, and then the science of counterpunching, which makes you invincible when you're boxing at a high level. So check it out. If you catch it, write it down in the comment boxes. I want to see how many of my guys out here truly understand high level boxing. We're taking it down, and right here we have a conglomerate of just all of the combinations that we choose to use. That's kind of like the science we keep it in, and then we build upon that as we go. Block the 4, 3, 2, and the body shot, and the hook to the head. So now you're blocking boom, 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 down here and up here. And you just seen that in demonstration mode. So from here we go down to tier 2, where we counter off of the counter, and we go down. As we go drop down, we get further, and then we get down to, you see what I'm saying? Now, the thing about it is, this is sequencing. This is where we're taking the individuals. That's a formula. That entire board is written on. I mean, the board is about 18 feet, and the entire board has a sequence of defensive combinations and counters. And that's all in the science of counterpunching techniques, because that's what's required. So tell me, Mr. I know what I'm doing. How aware are you that you cannot get away with not understanding how to throw your hooks inside of the pocket in boxing? That's where we won a lot of fights, because it's not, fighters and coaches don't lose because of what they know. They lose because of what they don't know. And so anytime we saw guys warming up, we could tell what they didn't understand. If they were too technically sound, we knew that they couldn't beat us. If they were flawed, then they know that we knew that they were going to get exposed. Now, this is a school that's responsible for over 300 champions. Literally, I'm generation 4. Last generation was 4. I mean, I'm 3. Generation before you guys was 4, and y'all are 5. We understand things that you'll never get access to. So this is why I'm sharing this with you, because you chose to follow our page or you subscribe to our Instagram and Facebook. But It's all about knowing these details, and the devils are in the details. Now, this is me describing and having a conversation with former Olympic champion Darrell.
Mastery by Robert Greene, and the concentration, the level of focus, the
Yeah,
level of discipline. It takes sacrifice to get to that position. I
yeah,
don't know how many fighters out there today with that actual pedigree um, are in a position to get there, but don't have the level of focus, concentration, discipline to get there.
yeah,
Right. That's the scary part. Today's world is popcorn, and I want to overuse that phrase because it's used so much like it's a popcorn society today.
yeah,
We see things and
yeah.
we're on to the next that quick. Right. It takes an extreme amount of focus to become great at anything. And I'm not just talking mastery now. I'm talking about just being great too. 'Cause
Anything.
being great, and then there's mastery.
See, now he was coached by my coach in the 2004 Olympics. And so, how we share this is when you're going up in there and you have the necessary data. This is why I tell you, you never get arrogant, because you're going to get your ego bust. Trust what I'm saying. It's going to happen. So if you're going into these tournaments, guys, and you're boxing against these individuals, the first thing you got to remember is the rules. If you know how to defend against a person, I'm talking about seriously defend against a person. I said that I was going to show you something that I wanted you all to catch. And if you catch it, you're going to know how to deal with another layer inside of the boxing, the sport of boxing at the amateur level, but at a higher echelon. We're going into the Olympics. We're going into the Olympics, cuz if you're just learning on social media, you're going to be in real trouble. So, what I'm going to share with you is going to really give you more enlightenment and help you win when you're at a competitive level. First thing I want you guys to do is practice sitting down on a stool. And you may not think this is serious, but you don't practice that whenever you are at training camp. The only thing you do is go to the corner, you get water, and you go back and start fighting. But when you're boxing in tournaments, you go to the corner, you sit down. You don't even know how to sit on a stool correctly. The cornermen don't get a lot of practice, and especially if you're young. So if you're a young boxer and you're a young trainer and you don't practice this, when it's fight time, you're going to look like the Three Stooges. It happens all the time. You get to these boxing tournaments, and these individuals, they don't even know how to put the stool between the rope. They don't know that you turn it upside down and flip. Turn it upside down, flip. You see guys trying to slam the thing on between the ropes, over the ropes, in between that, like they're doing everything but the Watusi. And this is where we are when it comes down to not being exposed to education. You cannot learn this stuff in spots like that. You have to practice these things. So when you get there on fight on when it's time for the tournaments and you're looking at all of these other good fighters, they're getting very, very sharp, and you're looking at them train and you see a lot of things that you're not doing. You're not doing these things, and I think we're in on over our head, and you get in there and lose or you leave. And because what happens is there are teams like my teams, when they would walk into the facility, people knew immediately that they weren't at our level. They could just tell. We walked in different and we left with the straps. And a lot of times we won by walkthroughs because people left because they didn't want to fight us. Now, a lot of people can say, "Yeah, well, that's happened to me once," but this is just what used to happen to us constantly, and it wasn't our fault that we were generation three. We weren't our fault that we come from a lineage of, we're talking Holyfield, Sweet Pea, Roy Jones. That's our downline. That's where our coaches. That's where we came from. Coach Adams. That's all those fighters, all those killers. You know what I'm saying? Meldrick Taylor. You talking about the greatest fighters that have laced them up. Mark Breland. You know, you can't make that up. And so when we would produce, you know, Andre Ward, Andre Durrell, when we produce, it was just a little different. We understood, you know, I had 30 years of knowledge right there, just packed in that Olympic knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Like it's gonna be unfair on a lot of levels because we know how to train. So if you know how to train, you got to learn from people who know how to train, because I don't care what you're learning, you're not going to learn enough outside of skills that's going to help you win at high level boxing. So once you start coming to real places in boxing, now you might live in Lizard Lick, North Carolina, but when you go to Florida and you start popping into Cali and you start popping into Texas and you start going to places that have real fighters, you start going to New York where, you know, boxing is a part of the culture, Vegas, and then you go over there and then you get your ears pulled off because you're training the same amount of hours, most likely, but you're not training the same kinds of things. And hopefully this is making sense to you, because there's a lot of panic going on in these conversations that I'm experiencing on Instagram and over here on the pages. And it just makes me realize, when you're in this position, are you the individual that has to practice learning because you have short attention deficit? You know, but these things really matter if you are learning how to do this the right way. There is no way that you will not win if you really stop trying to take shortcuts. Because just like the Andre Durrell was just saying, taking shorts is the reason why you're not going to have the success, because it's popcorn. You're in a popcorn culture. And I could care less about what you think when you start fighting for real, and not you guys out there who talking about you want to fight, because fighters go fight. I don't care if you have to run 10 miles, you'll get to the gym. If you're a real fighter, you can't control it. Can't control it. You tell me one person that you know that keeps saying they can fight but never go do it, that ends up becoming a champion. It's never going to happen. And so this is kind of where this whole entire thing goes. Confidence, but understanding there's curriculum that you got to have. And I don't see anyone write in the comment boxes what they saw wrong with this situation.
Here, number 4, will we
This is fisticuffs. Just look at the tightness of the defense. Everything is tight. Everything is sharp. Everything. Look at that defense. Punching. Bam. Should have just seen something. But I can tell there's no one with confidence about their answers, because what you were supposed to see was supposed to enlighten.
Beautiful drills.
adding those little variables inside of the ring, spacing at the end when you make the turn, when you're throwing body shots. Remember, once you take them shots down to the body, one eye is going to be on the body. One's going to be covered. You're going to slip over to this side. One's going to be clearly on that target. Boom. And then back around, pop, pop, spacing. Like I said before, pop, pop, pop. You go around here to the body. You slip over here to that side. Boom. And then you turn your opponent. Space with the feet. Here, turn your opponent. Space with the feet. Half step back. Let's do that again. Turn. Rotate your opponent. Half step back. Boom, boom, pop, pop.
And that is how you deal with a pressure fighter. You see, you turn those jokers, half step back, hook, spin them, turn them, and set them back off with the jab, pop, pop. And then you look at them and let them know. That's what it's going to be like all night. So, Joshua, no, your name was Sean. This is how you go about doing this, man. And the sequence that went before that, did you notice that there was an avid attention to detail when they would block, that they didn't just block, but they dipped their body. And when they came back up to defend their head, they didn't just defend, they rolled because they were practicing on layer 2 of the counters. And then layer 3 came after their sequence of coming back, pop, 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 pop. And the thing about it is your brain has to get expanded to that depth. And I know coaches aren't practicing that enough because that's where we will always win. They weren't ready to go those extra layers, those counters. They only were ready to go, at best, they were going to be they would get past just to the second. They wouldn't get past to the third. And when we would take them there, I mean, we won matches clearly, knockout, hook right, good night. I put one of those matches on our post, and when you saw it, and it was a movie. It was like poetry in motion because the kid absolutely was on Quiz Street when we put that move on him. It's sidestep, hook right, good night, boom. And it was a beautiful glide, but it was off of the second tier. We took him into 3. And 3, he didn't understand where to get to. He didn't understand what was happening. All he was doing is standing there just lost. And that's what's going to happen when you get into the higher levels. That's why if you're not really leveled up, you get gone after the second round. You don't make it to the third. And if you get lucky and get a walkthrough, or you get some kind of sandwich bag in the third, 4 and 5, yeah, you don't slip through there. You don't make it there. And that's one of the reasons you keep getting to the tournament, the national level, but you never get through it. You can never get through all 5 stages because it's levels. In that thing, you're going through 6 levels. All right. You got 5 days, but you're going through 6 levels. And if you want to understand what that means, make sure you're around next Tuesday, because next Tuesday we're going to do that in-house live stream for our guys. So you just keep it locked and subscribe to the website so you can get the notification when it's going. Because when you see and understand that 6th tier, that level that creates the confusion, the separation, that's why there's one ice cold level, one ice cold winner. And you remember I brought the winner of the 2022 nationals on the show, and Jordan, that was his last name. And he was nice with his skills. He understood a lot more than what people did, and he went and trained with people who are at very high levels. He learned and was a student, and that's one of the ways that you can learn. But just keep that in mind. There's a reason why we did things the way we did it and how we did it, and there's a lot more to boxing than just watching social media and looking at matches on TV. It's a lot more to it than that. So don't be caught out there in Quiz Street. Make sure you go up and subscribe to the website. Most of you guys are learning really good techniques and stuff, but there are levels to this thing. It's the skills, the skill sets, the concepts, the theories, all of these things that kind of merge and turn into a thing. Because when you start to do that, you start to develop as an athlete and a professional level athlete. So hopefully this would be something that gave you the most valuable insight to how you got to approach tournament boxing. And I gave you a couple of tips on how to score, how to defend, how to turn, an opposition who has a lot of power, and how to set traps by taking that half step back and uppercutting, throwing the hook. These things is what I just went over. And the more important thing is you can try to duck the education, but the education ain't gonna duck you because you're gonna run right into it. So prepare yourself. I prepare yourself because that's exactly how I got to a place where I was working with world class fighters, Hall of Famers, Olympians, top level coaches, and being selected to be on the team from the world of ESPN. These opportunities came because of the depth that I went. So if you're a coach, you got to just go deeper than the other guys are willing to. And if you're a fighter, you got to be willing to listen more than the other fighters will. And when you do that, you put those two ingredients together, you're going to have a winning team, and you're going to win, and you're going to find yourself in the second level of the nationals, the third level, and the fourth level. And then, boom, you'll see yourself standing on that podium and holding up that ice at the end of the night, because there's nothing that feels better than when you've gotten there and you've won and you've shown that and proved to everybody that you're not just some guy who's dreaming about boxing, that you're actually in a position to master the science of this boxing. So take time, enjoy yourself when you're learning, because you got to enjoy this thing, because the process is real. And I want you all to be there when it's time for you all to have your opportunity to really get to that place and say, I know what it feels like, because there's nothing better
What
than when you're
happens when you
standing out
follow the
there.
process? This is the art of
You feel
sparring.
what I'm saying? Nothing feels better than when your guys get an opportunity to just show the hard work, the dedication. Nothing, nothing. Go up to the stories and get a little more educated. And I'll see you all soon in the winner's circle. We have a great opportunity for you guys to learn how to become your own leader. So just listen to that and follow it, and work like there is no tomorrow, because when you're focused, there is no tomorrow. And that's how you train. Coach Bradley signing out. Be blessed at Godspeed. This is Master Boxing, where you'll get your master's degree in boxing. Peace.